Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today we are going to continue on with our basic tutorial for Crusader Kings III. Now, this is episode number 7. In this episode, we're going to talk about our realm, and our realm is here in blue, and it contains the counties that we either control directly or control through a vassal. And so we will get into this selection, the realm selection. But before we do that, I want to look up here at domain. Now, we've looked at this a few times, but it also really kind of interacts with the realm button because this also shows you your realm. It shows you what you control directly, your domain. So we're the petty kingdom of Munster. Directly, though, we control the earldom of Thomond. And if we come down here and click on the earldom of Thomond, it will say our county, and the county holder is you. That's us. When it says you, it means us. Control is absolute. And so when we start thinking about these counties, of course, our home county, we're probably going to have very good control over, right? We have been their petty king. They expect us to be their petty king. But if we start taking over other counties, this control amount becomes an issue, especially if it is a different religion, a different culture. Now, we're not going to have that problem in Ireland, right? Because almost all of Ireland is insular Christianity, and all of Ireland is Irish for the most part. And we can, of course, go look at that. And so let's go take a look when we're thinking about our counties or other counties we may want to take over. Faiths, very important. So if we came and took over this Catholic county, we may have some problems with control. Cultures, Irish, but this is now Norwegian crosshatched hair, so it's basically becoming Norwegian. Now, the top liege's culture is Irish, so there is some debate there which one they're going to go with. That's why you see the cross hatching there. But it is going to be a little less inviting to us than something that has the Irish culture. So something to think of there. As we continue here with domains and thinking of our domain and our holdings, direct holdings. Again, we have the empty one, we have the castle. As the earldom of Thomond, let's go down here and click on it again. There are, of course, the Temple of Rose Cray, the city of Innis, which we control indirectly, right? We control the county, but we can't control those directly. And again, these are abstractions. Always think of this. You see the temple out here? It's really, the temple and all the lands around it are leased from us by the church. The city is the city and all of the lands around it. That's why we're able to collect levies, right? It's not just the city folk out here. They're sending us people from all around the city. Again, it's an abstraction, but that's where the levies come from. Same with this. You would think, well, it's just a temple. Where are we getting troops? Well, it's all the land around it. Same with taxes. You say, well, we have a castle. Where are all these taxes coming from? Well, it's all the people living in the land around. We just don't see them necessarily, but that's where it comes from when we raise levies or collect taxes. And so this is the earldom of Thomond. Now, also in our realm, we have a vassal. We have the vassal here in the city. He is a direct vassal to us. And if we go look at Snecta, we are listed as his liege. Now, you will see our bishop, we are also listed as his liege, but he is not listed as our direct vassal. Why is that? Well, religious figures are just treated a little differently. They're not per se considered vassals. They're appointed by our church, and so we don't have that kind of direct control over them, but they will send us taxes and levies if they like us. Unfortunately, ours does not. We're running a scheme on him. Meanwhile, we have our vassal down here. Now, our vassal has his own vassal. which is the mayor of this city, Mayor Loden. And if you look at his liege, it is our vassal, right? Because our vassal, Ragnald here, Earl Ragnald, who controls Ormond, he um, again cannot control the city directly, but this mayor owes his allegiance to our vassal, who then owes allegiance to us. So the taxes go up to him, and then the taxes come over to us. Could we take this over for ourselves? We could if we wanted to. We are currently holding one of the 6 counties we can hold, okay? Or direct holdings that we can hold. It's kind of a shorthand to say counties, but if we build a castle here and control it, now that we would be up to 2 of 6. Okay, we would have 2 castles. That's not a normal situation to have an unbuilt barony here. Most counties are going to be this kind of 3 breakdown. We would control the castle if we took this over, so we would have 2 of 6 that we can have, and this is based on we're a duke, we've studied bailiffs, we studied the ledger, and our stewardship gives us a +2. You can see the reason our domain limit is what it is. That domain limit is very important because it is ultimately what causes you to have vassals, right? So starting off the game, you're thinking, oh, well, I guess vassals are just normal and you have to have them or something if you're not in that county. No, we could replace our guy here with ourselves. But we would have to suffer the negative effects. So there are a couple reasons we don't do that right at the start. One is that this guy can raise an army of 303. We can raise an army of 370. Well, that's not great odds. I think we would beat him in a war. We have more knights, and we'll get into the military here eventually. But this is not an open and shut case. And if we weaken ourselves fighting our own vassal, one thing that's happened on the map since we've been playing is there's a raid going on down here in Desmond. And this is a raiding army. Here, we'll back up so we can see it exactly. They are the first raiders of Ostraford. They are a neutral army. And let's go down here. They are from the Jarldon of Ireland. Okay. Well, we're going to go there and find out where that is. They are Norse. So as you can see here, they are coming down from Iceland, what eventually becomes Iceland. It's called Island now. I just said island because it's spelled just like island, right? Except for the little tilde up there. But it's actually Island. That's what the Norse, the Vikings called Iceland. And they are doing a raid down here in Desmond. And so as we scoot back in here and look at this, it's the first raiders. They are raiding this county down here. Now, this is something to keep in mind too, for 2 reasons. One is we may have to raise an army let's go back to the realm mode. We may have to raise an army very quickly because Luminich might be their next destination. Um, well, there's actually 3 things to think about here. Two is this may weaken this Earl who has part of our duchy, right? If we go to the duchy view, this is the Duchy of Munster. We do not control this county, which we believe is rightfully ours, but we do not currently control it. Um, and also, if we do go fight our own vassal, all of a sudden it becomes very easy for these raiders to then come to Luminich, to come here to Ormond, and start taking territory from us and our vassal. And so that is the reason you wouldn't just immediately run down here and say, hey, this is mine, get out of here. You may need this guy's help. These guys have 636 troops. That's what that means there. We already saw that we can raise, what was the total? 370. Our vassal can raise 303. We could actually give them a pretty decent fight if we call our vassal in, or if our vassals, well, we will have 370 if we call him in, but he may then also bring his own army in to bear and help us, and we may need the help. You can also see this. There's an ongoing raid, resulting loot. We'll get into that in the warfare chapter, which I promise is coming soon. Um, and so I just really wanted to cover why are we not immediately coming down here and taking control of our entire realm? Well, as long as you've got a good vassal, you may want to keep these spots open because let's just say we take Desmond eventually, and we take Connacht, and we take Athlone, and we take Gabra. Oh, these are baronies, sorry. We take Ossory, Athlone, Connacht. Okay, now all of a sudden, one, two, three, four, we would have five of the six direct domains that we can control. Okay, now we take six. All right. We could, at that point, probably declare ourselves the king of Ireland. You need to have over half of the duchies to declare yourself a king of a kingdom. And we could maybe do that and then start handing out more vassalages. But we'll get into that as we get into the Let's Play. But these are all of the considerations you would be thinking about. So up here under domains, you've got your domain. We've talked about that. We've talked about our vassals, the mayor and the earl down in Ormond. One is feudal, okay? And we know why that would be, right? Because we've appointed him, given him a title. One is republic because it's a city, and they pay us a set amount of taxes, and those are predictable, as it says here. It's the you can't play republics in this game yet, but cities are on the republic model, and there's not a whole lot you can do to dictate to them per se. Um, then we have secession. Now, secession, I'm going to get to in just a second. Before that, let's go up here to crown authority. And let's just read this one because it's so important. Crown authority represents the general power that a ruler wields over their vassals. Okay, so we have two vassals. There are four levels of crown authority: autonomous vassals, limited, high, and absolute. Increasing crown authority costs an amount of prestige depending on the level and the ruler's learning skill. Okay? Vassals dislike higher levels of crown authority, as you might imagine, and lowering it is the primary goal of liberty factions. So you will start to, as you assert more control over your realm, you will have various factions that pop up. Now, those factions can just speak out against you. They can try to run plots against you. They could possibly try an assassination against you or a rebellion against you. So you have to be very careful with who you're, you know, what you're prodding with the stick, right? Because these factions could lead to your downfall ultimately if they get upset enough. But Crown Authority, we are on level 1 right now. And you see that it's lit up, right? Right now, we are on the lowest level of Crown Authority. And when you think about Crown Authority, all it is how much power and control do you have as opposed to how much your vassals have. So right now, our vassals are very powerful, relatively speaking, compared to us. They are autonomous. They can kind of do what they want to do. Now, we call them vassals, and they will send us some taxes. They will send us some troops, but ultimately, they are fairly autonomous. So we want to bump this up, right, as our character, because the more, well, let's just look at the advantages. The current law, direct vassal opinion is plus 10. Well, of course, they like us very much. Vassals provide levies and taxes but are otherwise free to do as they wish. Okay, well, they have a better opinion of us, essentially because we're letting them do whatever they want. What is two? Two, rulers can change between secession laws, which is very important. Titles can be revoked. Vassals can be retracted. So when I said earlier we could go take him out if we wanted to, We could not have pulled his title because we don't have that much crown authority. And that's what we're going to need to do is bump this up if we want, because we want more power. So vassals can be retracted, titles can be revoked. And when they say that, they mean titles below us, right? Clan government vassals will, okay, that's not applicable to us. It costs 125 prestige. This goes back to last episode. This is another way, and a very good way, to spend your prestige because this gives you quite a bit more power, and these secession laws are very important. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to tell us what's going to happen. Okay, you know, whatever. It's 125 prestige. That's what it costs, and out comes 125 prestige. Okay, what would happen if we get to 3? Because, as you can see, we're probably, all things being equal, going to want to move to the right here on Crown Authority. This is one of the most important things of the game. Um, in 3, so we cannot increase this again until 1089. So 20 years have to pass, right? And also, our culture does not have the royal prerogative innovation. Now, we can go look at that, but we're not going to dig that deep into it. We're just going to bring up our culture and we're going to look for royal prerogative. There it is. Okay, and you see over here, can enact the high crown authority or can enact the absolute crown authority. And you see it's going to take us 386 years to get to that right now because we are not focusing on it. That is not our fascination. Our fascination right now is hereditary rule because we want to pass a new hereditary law. Again, uh, let's not go down this rabbit hole. The point is that we cannot go to high crown authority for 20 years because we've just changed this, and we have not studied royal prerogative innovation in our culture. So our culture doesn't really recognize. If you think about it and pull back for a second, what it's basically saying is the Irish just don't expect to have this level of authority by their petty king or a petty king, a duke or a duchy. They just do not expect that level because we have not made it a fascination. Our culture is not used to it. Now we are in charge of our culture, so if we wanted to come over here and pick it, we could do that, and we just did. So now we're looking at royal prerogative as our fascination, and it tells us it will take 52 years for that to become part of our culture. And then the Irish peoples will say, oh, it's just normal in Ireland to have this level 3 of crown authority. If we get there, direct vassal opinion will be -10. Their levy contribution, though, will go up. Their tax contribution will go up. We can change between all available society. This is very powerful. As you can see, a lot of these decisions and a lot of the things that go into what we can control are based on this crown authority. Um, Vassals' titles cannot be inherited by characters outside the. Okay, I mean, there's just more and more. Um, Vassals cannot wage war against other vassals unless they can use a hook on their liege against us, and we'll talk about hooks soon. Um, anyway, we could go on and on, but the fact of the matter is we cannot get there for 20 years and we cannot get there until we learn that fascination, which means we're actually not going to get there for 52 years. But royal prerogative is a very powerful cultural fascination to eventually learn. Okay? Um, so secession. Secession is really what the crux of this game. Ultimately, you are always going to have an heir as long as someone from your dynasty is alive and you have a title to pass to them. Well, you may have an heir even if you don't have a title on the hope that you'll get one. But if you die without any title or any claim, what could you even potentially pass to your heir, right? You wouldn't be passing anything. They don't have any land, they wouldn't have any claims, they wouldn't have anything that really makes them an heir. I guess, you could say, "Oh my gosh, here's my baseball card collection." But ultimately what this game is all about is titles and claims. And counties. I always say and counties. But titles and claims are what you pass down. And one of the real frustrations and yet delights of this game is the fact that you can build up this incredible realm, but when you die, it may get split up between your three sons, right? And so you would, switch to playing Brian, but then Brian's two brothers might get some of his titles. And so they're constantly being split off like that. You'll have your own dynasty and familial civil wars. And so you really want to try to avoid that. So if you ever hear somebody talking about this game and they talk about, man, that secession, like, I had the kingdom of all of England, and then my secession law, but when I died, it ended up a civil war between like 12 different people from my dynasty. Well, that's because of your secession laws. And you can see here right now, our secession law is Confederate partition. Okay. Our direct vassals have a +5 of that because they they kind of like this. It says all children inherit equally. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, Brian is going to get our main title because he is our direct heir. But then any of our other quote unquote heirs, all of our children are going to get equal shares of what else is left. So we can read here eligible child opinion +10. Of course, the kids love it. The people in the house love it because they may or their children may get some throwaway title they never expected to get. Everybody kind of likes this except for us and potentially Brian, right? Under Confederate partition, your titles will be divided equally between your children. New titles may be created for younger realm heirs. And then you can go on here and read. Upon secession, all titles held by the late ruler will be divided among their eligible children, and the player heir always will be given the primary title, the realm capital, and any direct de jure titles associated with it. Younger children will be given titles starting with those of the same rank as the primary title. If none are available, they will be given lower ranking titles. So ultimately, what does that mean? That means if we died right now, that Brian would become the petty king of Munster, okay? And he would get this title. But he gets that, but then our younger children would start to split up any earldoms that we had. So, the earldom of Thomond, it's very possible then that our other children, if they're eligible, and a daughter is not. Right now, we just have a daughter, Ain. But let's say we have several sons, they would start divvying up the other titles. So let's say we had 6 sons and 6 titles, one being the duchy and 5 earldoms. Okay, Brian would become the petty king and would get the duchy title. 5 of our 6 other sons would become earls underneath him and vassals, which would be maybe okay, right? But you never quite know how this, as things grow, they can sometimes grow in strange and unexpected ways. What happens if we uh, control the petty kingdom of Munster, but then we come up here and all of a sudden take over the petty kingdom of Connacht? Okay, and then let's say, I don't know if this is the case, but let's say that Ulster, the petty kingdom of Ulster is these 3 counties, and we control all 3 of those as well. Well, now we've got 3 petty kingdoms. How do those get divided? Well, Brian gets one. Our next eligible son gets one, our next eligible son gets one, and all of a sudden you're kind of back to square one, right? It's almost as if you've lost it. Now, your family, your dynasty still has it, but you playing the game now are back to just being the petty king. And then it's like, well, do you want to declare war on your brothers? Other members of your family and your dynasty, it really can throw a wrench into what you're building. And so we're always going to want more control over our secession. As it is right now with Confederate, that is the worst of the worst because it's multiple realm heirs, which is here in the first rank. Down here is single realm heir, which you would prefer to keep your dynasty doing what you want it to do. Partition, again, is all children inherit equally, but it's a little bit different. You have a little more control over it. High partition, all children inherit, but not equally. You have a little more control over it. And then you get down to single realm heir, and this is what you're going to be trying to get to as quickly as you can. Now, you can read about why you can't change your succession law right now. For one thing, your powerful vassals have to approve to chain it, to chain it, to change it. So think about that, right? That's one reason to keep your vassals happy, or at least keep stooges as your vassals if you want. Although many times you want very competent men to be your vassals or women. But the mayor Finsnecta opposes this, and you can see why if you want to. Um, this also would cost 500 prestige to move to the right. So generally when you see these, and read through them, but you're going to want to be moving to the right and moving down. And you see once we get to single realm heir, all of a sudden you have some choices to make. This would be oldest child inherits, youngest child inherits, or the oldest house member inherits. So there's a decision to make there how you want your realm to be. Um, but again, for multiple realm heirs, all other things being equal, we're going to want to be moving to the right because we are the next character we play will get more of our titles, which is really, what you're generally going to want unless you're just playing the game a certain way and you don't care and you want it split up for some reason. But you can go through here and read about, what's an eligible child. Um, For instance, bastards are not considered eligible, as well as the children of certain genders under specific gender laws. Now, you may remember that our faith, okay, is male dominated. That's a certain gender law. So no females are going to be eligible children for us, okay? Um, but I'll leave you to kind of look into that. Oops, shit. Oh, sorry about that. I accidentally hit pause when I went up there to the upper left. Okay, so I think that we've gone through Crown Authority now. We've upped that. Domain, vassals, and secession. Very important. Gender law, here you can see the gender law. We just talked about that in our faith, but it's male preference. Make men take precedence over women in secession. Male rulers can have concubines or multiple spouses, and then you can also change that. So we are not male only, actually. I was wrong about that. Now, we are male dominated, but you can come here and see that we are simply male preference when we hit on secession, um, which means we could have a female take, but males are given preference. So men take precedence over women. Male rulers can have concubines. Just read this to you. Male only means, well, you can only be male only if you have high crown authority. We have powerful vassals that would not like this. We're missing prestige. It takes a lot of prestige. And it says here, women are disqualified from inheritance. Women cannot inherit claims. Male rulers can have concubines again or multiple spouses. Um, Equal, female only, female preference. There you go. You can see it there. And so male preference really means our oldest son's going to take title. if we have a son. If not, it could go to a female, but it's not the preference. Okay? Um, so that's domain. Let's go down here to our realm, and you'll see, and that's why I waited till the last thing to kind of click on this. You'll see it's the exact same button. So domains, it's the same menus, it's crown authority, that's your realm. Same thing, domain, vassals, secession. They just put it in two different places, very close together. Now, it wouldn't have to necessarily be exactly the same, I don't think, if you're not controlling a realm at that moment. Well, no, because basically, if you have a domain, you have a realm. So, really, I think that it would have to be the same. But, you may want to click back and forth and check me on that just to make sure as the game continues. But these are essentially the same menus. And with that, I think that we've covered realms and domains. Hopefully, you understand what they are, how you can manipulate them a bit, crown authority. Now, one thing I will mention before we leave, now remember, we have a vassal here that does not want us to change our secession laws, right? So Mayor Finsnecta does not want us to do that. Remember, we can try to sway him through a scheme. We could do some other things, a little more dastardly. Another thing that we'll be getting to very shortly is we may know a secret of Mayor Fensnecta, and those are called hooks. When you know something about a character, or maybe everyone knows it about the character, but you could broadcast it a little louder since you're the petty king, you can threaten, cajole, otherwise say to Mayor Finsnecta, hey, I've got a quote unquote hook on you. And we will be going into that next time in intrigue. Well, we're going to do council next time. 2 times from now, we're going to do intrigue. I just wanted you to start thinking about how would we get Mayor Finsnecta on our side. So if you ever want to see if you have a hook on a character, you can see it here. Hooks and potential hook secrets. We have a weak hook. There are weak hooks and strong hooks. We will get into that in intrigue. So, for Strategy Gaming Dojo, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something about domains and realms, and it's helping you understand this admittedly complex game, but it's a lot of fun once you learn it. And I'm trying to take it slow, trying to help you get every bit of the game that we can fit in here. So, as always, thank you. I'll talk to you next time.